Okay, now you're going to learn something new. Find the product. You have this 2x, 2 times x to the third. Don't put the dot, okay? You have an x to the third multiplied by 2. Put a parenthesis around that, please. 3 is supposed to be in the parentheses. Then a times dot, because now there's no symbol between the parentheses, so that insinuates that we have to multiply. So you have this x third multiplied by 2. You're multiplying by an x to the third multiplied by 1, x second multiplied by a positive 3, and x multiplied by a negative 2, and then a 5 multiplied by nothing. So what you do is you take this 2, and you draw rainbows, 2 to 1, just the multiplying numbers, not the powers, then 2 to the big 3, 2 to the negative 2, and then 2 to the positive 5. So how many rainbows did I just draw? I drew 4. So I'm going to write that 2x to the third out 4 times. Okay. I'm going to multiply it by 4 things. First I multiply by the 1 with its x to the third. Then I multiply by the positive 3, just write 3 down, with its x to the second. Then you multiply by negative 2 with its x. Then you multiply by the 5. Okay. Now you find these products individually. So you multiply the big numbers, 2 times 1. That's 2. Now x third times x to the third, you write your x down, you take 3 plus 3, and that's 6. 2x to the sixth. Now you multiply the fronts, 2 times 3, that's 6. And then on the x, you add the 3 and the 2. 3 plus 2 is x to the fifth. So 2x to the sixth, 6x to the fifth. Then 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then I multiply the x's. I have an x third. This would be an x to the first. Okay. And I take the 3 plus the 1, and that's 4. Okay. Now 2 times 5 is 10. Now I only have a single x here, so I write the x down and just put its power down. I don't add anything to the power because it's the only x we have. Now, you need to line this up into an answer. So the highest exponent I have is the x to the sixth. So I make a slot for x to the sixth. Do I have x to the fifth? Yep. So I make a slot for the x to the fifth. And then x to the fourth, you're counting down. Slot for x to the fourth, and then a slot for the x to the third. Now I'm not going to make a slot for x to the second because I don't have it. I'm not going to make a slot for x, remember x and x to the first, because I don't have that. And I don't make a slot for constants because I don't have that, meaning numbers without any letters. So we just slot the 2, the 6, the negative 4, and the 10. Plus signs between them, please. Okay, that's what you got. Okay, next problem. We have x multiplied by a 1, okay, times x squared multiplied by 7, and then a positive 4. So we just take the 1 to the 7 and the 1 to the 4. So I drew two rainbows. This can be a shorter problem. So 1x, and I'm multiplying it by 7x to the second. And then I'm multiplying it by positive 4. Okay, so remember how to do this. You multiply the big numbers. 1 times 7 is 7. And then you write x down, and you have two x's. This one's a first power, and this one's a 2 power. So I take 1 plus 2, and that would give me 3. Okay. Then 1 times 4 is 4. Now this is the only x that I have. Okay, if you want to put a 1 power, you can, or you can just leave it without a power and just put x with its power of 1. Okay, so x to the third is the highest exponent I have. X to the third. Now I'm not going to make a slot for x to the second because I don't have any x to the second. So I have x to the first, but that needs to be slotted as just x. Okay. Then we don't have any numbers without x in these products, okay, so I don't make a slot. So I just go 7 with x to the third, and then 4 with the x. X to the 1 gets slotted as just x. Okay, next problem. I have a 1 multiplied by x to the second times dot, and then we're multiplying it by 6x to the second, negative 3x, and 1. So I go 1 to 6, 1 to negative 3, 1 to negative 1. So I write that 1x to the second down 3 times, because there's only 3 things to multiply it by. First by the 6 with its x to the second, then to the negative 3 with its x included, and then the negative 1. Okay, so 1 times 6 is 6. Now on the x, I got a 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, you add the exponents. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Now we have 2 x's, so we put a plus sign. This would be a 2, and this would be a 1. So it's 2 plus 1, which is 3. So it's negative 3x to the third. Then 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Now this is my only x I have, and I just put it down with its second power. Okay, so the highest exponent I reached was x to the fourth. Now if I'm counting down, it'd be x to the 3, and I have x to the 3 right there. And then counting down would be x to the second. Now I'm done. I don't have x to the first. I don't have any constants. So I just put a 6, a negative 3, and a 1. Okay, you need plus signs between your blanks. Okay, next problem. A to the third multiplied by negative 5 times a to the fourth multiplied by 4, a multiplied by negative 3, and then a 1. Okay, not multiplied by a variable, so I distribute the negative 5 to the 4, the negative 5 to the negative 3, and the negative 5 to the 1. Now, when I write the negative 5 down, I have to include its a to the third. 3 multiplications, 3 rainbows. So I'm multiplying it by 4, but 4 has its a to the fourth included, and the negative 3 has its a included. And then the positive 1 doesn't have a variable, so we don't put it. Okay, negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Again, you're timesing the big numbers, but then when you get to the a's, you write a down and you add the powers. 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay. Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. Now we have 2 a's, so I put a with a plus, and then a 3 and a 1. So 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, then negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. And then we put a down, but we don't write a plus because we just have the 3 power. Okay, now a to the seventh is your highest. Okay. Now there is no a to the sixth, so I don't write that. There is no a to the fifth. There is a to the fourth right there, so I make a slot for the a to the fourth power, and then we have a to the third power. So a to the seventh, I would put negative 20. A to the fourth, I would put the 15. And then the a to the third, I would put the negative 5. Okay, that's how that needs to be slotted. Okay, next problem. I have d to the second power multiplied by 4. I put that in a parentheses, and there'd be a times between the two polynomials. I have negative 2d to the third plus 5d to the second minus 6d plus 2. Remember, those minuses indicate the number's negative. So I take this 4 to negative 2, 4 to positive 5, 4 to negative 6, and 4 to positive 2. So I have 4 now. So I write that 4d to the second out 4 times. So first you multiply it by the negative 2 with its d to the third attached. Then you multiply it by the positive 5 with its d to the second attached. Then you multiply it to the negative 6 with its d attached, and then times the 2. Okay, so 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Now I've got two d factors, so I add their exponents, 2 plus 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, d to the 5th. 4 times 5 is 20, and then I've got two d's, so I add their exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4, d to the 4th. Okay. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24, and then I write d with a plus, and you got 2 plus 1, and that's going to be 3. Okay. 4 times 2 is 8, and then d to the 2nd. Okay. Now, d to the 5th is the highest, so I've got d to the 5th, and I do have d to the 4th. Write them so they decrease. And then d to the 3rd we have, and then d to the 2nd we have. We do not have d to the 1st, so no blank for the d, for just d, and then no blank for constant. So d to the 5th I have a negative 8. D to the 4th I have a 20. D to the 3rd I have a negative 24, and then d to the 2nd you have an 8. There's your answer. Okay. Next problem, x to the 4th multiplied by 5. Okay. By the way, if you want to go P1, P2, that's fine, but now you're timesing them. Okay. So 5 to 2, 5 to negative 3, 5 to positive 5, and that is a negative 1 there. Okay, 5 to negative 1, sorry about the writing. So 4 products we find individually. 5 with its x to the 4th out 4 times. And I will be multiplying by x to the 3rd with its 2, or negative 3 with its x to the 2nd, 5 with its x, positive 5, and then negative 1. Okay, so you find the 4 products you have. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then on x you go 4 plus 3, that's 7. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15, so I write x down. 4 plus 2 gives me 6. 5 times 5 is 25. We have two x factors. We need to add their exponents. So that's a 4 and that's a 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Then put x with its 4. You don't put a plus because that's the only one you got. So the highest power you have is x to the 7th. I have x to the 6th. I do have x to the 5th. And we have x to the 4th. Now it stops there, so I don't keep going. So x to the 7th, you got 10. X to the 6th, you have negative 15. X to the 5th, you have 25. Then x to the 4th, you have negative 5. Okay, now, next problems are review problems, okay? So this is P1, this is P2. What do you have in between the P's? You have a plus sign, okay? So we're not going to do anything over here. So y to the 2nd with 8, y with negative 3, constant negative 10. Y to the 2nd with negative 11, y with a multiplying number of 2, negative 7. What is the highest power the variable y ever is to in the whole problem? It's to the 2nd. So we go slot y to the 2nd, then slot y to the 1st, but that's y. Don't put a first when you're slotting it, just y, if it's to the 1st. Then we also have some numbers in there that are not multiplied by letters, and now we add them. So we take y to the 2nd. We have this here with 8, and this here with negative 11. So we add 8 and negative 11. And that's negative 3. Then y. We have y multiplied by negative 3 here, and y multiplied by positive 2 here. So I add negative 3 plus 2. It's going to be negative 1. Then the constant slot. You have a negative 10 and a negative 7. You add negative 10 to negative 7. Negative 17. That's it. Okay. P1, P2 addition. Now, how does P1, P2 subtraction work? Well, x to the 3rd, 2, x 2nd, negative 3, x with 5, x third with 6, x second with 3, x with negative 5. Now we rewrite that as addition, but everything in P2 then changes to its opposite. So this is positive 6x to the third, now it's negative. This x to the second was multiplied by a positive 3, now it's going to be multiplied by a negative 3. This x that's multiplied by negative 5, now it's multiplied by a positive 5. And now I set things up. So we have x third, x second, and x. X third, x second, and x. So x third is the highest, okay? I have that. I definitely have some more numbers multiplied by x to the second. I've got some numbers multiplied by x, which is to the first. But I don't have any constants. Those are numbers like the negative 10, the negative 7. Those aren't multiplied. So I don't make a slot for that, okay? If we don't have it in the whole problem, leave it out. So x third I take here with a 2, here with a negative 6. So I take 2 plus negative 6, negative 4. X second, I have a negative 3 and a negative 3. So I'm adding negative 3 plus negative 3. That's negative 6. Then x, I have a 5 and a 5. 5 plus 5 makes 10. Okay.